All right, now we're going to take a look at the teaching notes. Now the teaching notes, this is the primary part that you're going to need to redo, to make the case, okay? So this is, I think I've given these to you before, but these are the teaching notes from another case that got published, and actually this particular one happened to win an award. But anyway, if you take a look here, see the case synopsis? Basically, you need to redo this area right here. You need to redo this. Basically, this is a synopsis of the case that you're working on, okay? So it won't look anything like this. This one will be about watch this, okay, and about the problem at watch this, okay? Now, the next part here, again, all of these parts will have to be redone, okay? Notice where it says case objectives and use. The question is, what is this case attempting to teach, okay? And in this case, I think the biggest thing here is market research. The biggest issue that myself and my partner made, we were a little bit cocky. We thought we knew what we were doing, but we didn't take into account how different the clients were going to be, okay? And that was a bad mistake. That's what should be discussed there, okay? Now, under applicability, that means for what courses would this work good for, okay? And in my mind, this would be a course about entrepreneurship, small business, marketing, of course, the identifying target market. That's what you would be talking about here, okay? Now, the student learning objectives, these would be tied into the case. They would absolutely be different than these. And basically, so here, student learning objectives, this is saying when a student does this case, what would you like for them to learn from the case? What different items, so you ask them to do this case, what are the learning objectives? And this SLO, this stands for student learning objective, okay? Student learning objective. That's what it stands for, student learning objective, student learning objective, okay? So again, you probably want to have, on the student learning objectives, you probably want to have, 4 to 6 of them, okay? Now this next part, overview of applicable theories and concepts. The first part regarding case studies is going to be similar. The first part talks about why do we use case studies? What makes them, so the idea about case studies, you could read through here, but you're going to have to find different references, okay? Maybe even case studies in marketing would be even better, okay? So notice here they say the premise of learning theory. So you're going to have to find something a little bit different to write about that suggests why do we use case studies. And generally speaking, one of the best reasons is because it's something that actually happened. So now you're tying the theory to an actual real life development. And that's important for students because a lot of times it just seems like theory, okay? All right, so you're going to have to find a new reference for that, okay? Now, the same goes through here. Now, finally, when you get down here, this is talking about it. These textbooks, they're talking here, oops, let me do that. Here, they're talking about accounting. You're going to want to reference something else, probably having to do with marketing. You're going to have to look up a marketing textbook or an entrepreneurship textbook. Again, this is saying this is where they explain target market, whatever in the textbook. Okay? All right. All right. Now, the next one, research methodology. Now, this one, this is going to be a rewrite, but it's going to be somewhat similar in that this actually happened. So notice here it says, one of the case co-authors. That's me, right? That you could say that this actually happened. This was the case. So where did this come from? Where did this come from? And it was something that actually happened to one of the co-authors. That's what you're going to write here. Okay. Recommended use is implementation and use of the case in the class. Okay. here you want to explain how a teacher would go about doing this, how they would do this in the classroom. You might need a little help with these. You might need a little help with all of them, but I'm happy to help you. Okay, so take a look at this one, and basically what you're doing is that, okay, now you're the teacher. If you're the teacher, how would you recommend using this in the classroom? Okay. Data collection and methods. Okay. Again, this is going to be similar. The data provided, and again, there wasn't a lot of data in this case. So I would say here, instead of data, the information provided. The information provided came from one of the co-authors. Nature of disguise, again, it's similar. Okay. Now here, the nature of disguise, we changed the names. So the names were changed, the locations were changed. Okay, that's the nature of the disguise. And the idea here is so that somebody can't actually identify the business without their approval. Frankly, in this case, I don't care about giving the approval, but nonetheless, it's something you need to write there. Okay. Disclosures, the same type of thing. It's going to be similar. Due to the age, now just remember, you can't write the same thing. You got to completely rewrite it. Okay. And then finally, discussion questions with answers. Okay. Now in this case, there was not a lot of data. There was not a lot of numbers. These questions are going to be more like discuss what is the critical issue, or what was the critical mistake made by Rami and Robert, the owners of Watch This? How could they have prevented this issue? So basically here, you're asking the questions that, based upon what you want the students to know, and you're going to give the answers to it. So notice here, discussion questions with answers, and then the answers you're going to give. So here you go, discussion questions with answers. So like, here's the first discussion question that they gave, and here are the answers. Okay, the next discussion question, right, here are the answers. So basically you're going to want to write out questions related to the case, and then the answers that you want the students to come up with, the suggested answers. Okay. And again, remember, in this case, now notice here, there's a lot of data because they had to do a lot of calculations. In this particular case, there's not a lot of, people are not going to have to calculate a number. These are going to be more discussion questions, not calculation questions. Okay. All right. Well, that pretty much does it. And then the epilogue, I think I told you in the story. In the end, epilogue means what happened afterwards, and then references down here. So the epilogue in this particular case was, we wound up selling the location to the manager. He was able to get some money, and we were able to finance the rest of it. We took out the watches that didn't work in this environment, brought them back to South Florida, and then he continued to own the business and operate it, selling watches at about $250 and under. All right, there you go. Hopefully that'll help you get a good start on this case. And again, like I said, if you need any help, just let me know. Happy we could do a Zoom or email back and forth. Okay? All right. Talk to you soon.